So I'm having a chat with Jared of Keep This Up. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Jim. I'm good, thank you. I hope all's well with yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, you've got a new single out called Find Myself. Tell us a little bit about the track.
Yeah, so I think this track for us was, again, kind of continuing on from Bury Me. But I think for us, we wanted to take much more of an anthemic kind of route with this. I think some of the earlier renditions had more screams and things like that. So we took all of that out and really tried to create more of this big anthemic sing along type track, really.
Yeah, good. And you've released a couple of tracks now. Are we now gearing up to a bigger body of work, or are we just sticking with the singles for now?
No, so it's definitely going to be along that bigger body of work. So we're currently steaming ahead on an EP. We're looking to get that out in June. So super exciting times, but there'll be a couple more singles along the way there as well, to keep an eye out for.
Good. And you've got a couple of dates coming up next week and more into the summer. I bet you can't wait to be doing your stuff live.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially with tracks like Find Myself, we're really looking forward to kind of getting those sing-alongs going. We've trialled it a few times live already, and it seems to be going down really, really well. But definitely, with some of the gigs we've got lined up, for example, Metal to the Masses next week down in Hitchin. We've got Willow Fest, and those bigger festival pieces is definitely where this track in particular will shine, we feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So a question that I love to ask artists is about going into the studio. So how much of a track is done before you head into the studio, and how does it work for you once you step foot in that studio before it creates the final track before you release it?
Yeah, I suppose with ourselves, we've got quite an interesting dynamic in that respect. So with Find Myself and Bury Me, and again with the latter tracks as well, all of those are produced ourselves at home. So the studio is our home base essentially. So a lot of it is, myself and obviously the rest of the guys as well, kind of going, these are the bones, this is what we've got, and then I think a lot more of it then transpires into the rehearsal rooms where we start to add a bit more inflection to kind of individual parts. But what we find is that a lot more flourishment tends to come out when we step into that studio space, when we're actually going, right, let's lay this down. How can we make this bigger, or how can we make this a little bit more interesting, or add a bit more kind of sparkle to this area? So I think for us, most of the track is, at least the bones wise, is nailed down before we start to get to that stage. But then the real kind of the icing on the cake, if you will, comes when we're in the studio.
Yeah, good. And I'd like to ask new artists especially how you guys got together. What made you form this band and decide to release music?
Yeah, I think so myself and Jonathan, I suppose, are latecomers to the party, really. So Chris and the guys, they'd had the band going, I think, for a couple of years over COVID. I think mainly for a bit of fun and to write music together. And then I think with myself and Jonathan joining, I know conversations that Chris and I had was, how do we take what we're doing and start to move it in a different direction? So, we soon started to move away from the pop punk roots. And I think for us, it's very much just trying to, I suppose, recreate what we enjoyed growing up, but adding a bit more of kind of the modern stuff that we're listening to now, whether that be heavier or more ambient, what have you, and kind of bringing that emo era, I guess, back to the fore again for ourselves, just because that's what we really enjoy listening to and what we grew up with, really.
Yeah, for sure. So do you guys know what sound you want to create in your music, or are you still learning, or are you still trying things out to see if that's the direction you want to go in?
I think there's still, don't get me wrong, Jim, there's still a huge element of still honing the sound in terms of for example, how heavy do we want to take things, or how clean or commercial, I guess, would be another way of saying it, do we want to take it. I think for ourselves, I think the way that we're viewing it at the moment is very much we are in kind of the alt music category, which gives us a lot of room to play with, a lot of room to explore. And I think with these 6 tracks in particular, there's a whole host of exploration going on. If you look at Bury Me in terms of it kind of alongside Find Myself. So, Bury Me is this very much out and out aggressive track. A lot of screams, a lot of kind of metalcore infusion in there, whereas Find Myself is very much kind of throwing back to that pop rock, alt rock sort of era of the 2000s, 2010s, that sort of era. So like I say, we're still very much on that explorative journey. I think there's a lot more of that to come, but I definitely feel like the alternative sort of ballpark is where we're looking to stay.
Yeah, good. And as a new band, you must have aspirations and ambitions, but what's that one thing that you personally, I guess, what's that one thing that you want to achieve in this band?
I think for me personally, it really comes down to writing whether that be an individual track. I suppose all of the tracks really, Jim, but writing stuff that is honest, writing stuff that inspires us to do more and tries to connect people, who have a similar outlook, whether that be around the lyrics, with Bury Me and Find Myself, it sticks on a similar theme of trying to rebuild yourself and separate yourself from toxic environments. I think some of the other tracks yet to come focus more around mental health. Others focus around different LGBT aspects of things. So it's trying to, I think for me especially, it's trying to write stuff that's honest. And I think that's what I look for in the bands that I listen to by and large. And I feel like there's a lack of that honesty in the music industry these days. It's a lot of trying to find that quick money scheme to fame or to whatever else. And for me personally, that's not what it's about.
Cool, excellent. Well, Jared, it's been a pleasure having a chat with you.
Yes, likewise, Jim. It's been a blast.